what New Zealand was like, I don't know, 200 years ago? Imagine. Go back in your imagination. I mean, I'm not saying anybody's around that can remember that far back, but what was New Zealand like 200 years ago? Because it was 200 years ago today that a wonderful couple, Richard and Mary Davis, arrived in New Zealand, and a wonderful legacy that they leave. And, well, they're the unsung heroes of the New Zealand missionary movement in some ways, somebody who has a better idea than most at what New Zealand was like 200 years ago. Is Reverend Dr. Malcolm Falloon joins me on the program now. Kia ora, Malcolm.
Yeah, kia ora, Andrew. Good morning to you.
Firstly, take us back. Paint us a picture. What was New Zealand, well, particularly Kerikeri, or the Bay of Islands, where they arrived there this day in 1824? What sort of place was it?
Well, it was a place that was under great tension because Honi Hika was mobilising their forces for major confrontation with Ngāti Whātua, which happened the following year. You had 3 mission stations there in the Bay of Islands who had, Honi Hika was trying to see the advantage of them. He was a friend of the missionaries, but he also saw a great advantage of having them there, and he wanted to exploit them for everything he could. So a lot of pressure on the mission. Henry Williams is starting to try and build a boat so they could be independent and supplying themselves with potatoes. That was quite a place of tension.
This is 10 years on from the first sermon, Te Haranui and all that stuff. Not a lot of progress in terms of evangelism at this point. This was the calm before the storm, the calm before the revival, and well, certainly Richard and his wife Mary were a big part of that. Tell us about them as a couple. What sort of people were they?
Well, I think they had Irish background initially. I'm hoping to go to the family reunion up in the Bay of Islands and learn from family historians more about them as in their background. But Richard was a natural evangelist. He was involved with evangelising female convicts on the convict ship out from England.
Wow!
And handing out tracts, and actually had some success in sharing the gospel with some of the female convicts. He was in New Zealand. He came out as a farmer.
Yeah.
And he immediately was looking around when he landed to find where he might farm. He was Maori saw great prestige in having a missionary be with them. The Maori at Waitangi wanted him to farm there. Tuai, who was further out in the Bay of Islands, was desperate for a missionary because they were being pushed out by the Ngāpui. But he even looked at Waimate North, where eventually he would establish a farm. But at the time when he arrived, this was a major point of tension. Honi Hika was just not going to allow that to happen. Mm-hmm. So he ends up having to farm at Paihia, which, as you know, is a very small strip of land there in the Bay of Islands.
I mean, from there, as you say, ended up in Waimate North. His wife. Tell us about her. I mean, gosh, made of strong stuff that you go, okay,
well,
we'll go, we'll travel to the other side of the world. I'll go with my husband. This is a calling of God. But certainly the stories that have come back of the sort of situation they were entering, not for the faint-hearted. Well,
Mary, what a wonderful woman she was. And she arrived in New Zealand with 6 children.
Yeah.
And had 3 further ones. I think they were in the mid-30s kind of age when they arrived. And she laboured with him through those difficult years. They established the farm at Waimate North, which essentially almost physically broke Richard.
Yeah.
Just the sheer effort required to get the fern root out and such like, which he managed to do. But then she suddenly dies.
Yeah.
And he's left completely without his life companion, with 9 children. And she actually had a premonition earlier before her death that her time on this earth may not be very long. But she was a woman of huge faith. And, of course, these missionaries, they were couples. They were missionary couples. And Mary was just as integral to the work of the mission as Richard. Yeah.
The children, I suppose, the legacy of Mary and Richard, their children in particular, 2 of their daughters who had grown up on the mission field in, Kirikiri, Paihia, and eventually Waimati North. Spoke fluent Te Reo Māori, both married missionaries who went on to found the Kaitaia mission.
Did.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, so then this is, but, the missionary children marrying other missionaries, but also marrying other respectable citizens who are coming out. The legacy of something like the Davis family. Last year we celebrated 200 years of the Williams family, Henry Williams and Mary Ann Williams coming out. But the legacy of the missionary children is an undervalued part of New Zealand history. They were the glue between Maori and the new colonial government. They really helped, along with Maori converts, to create a civil New Zealand society, which we enjoy today. Wonderful legacy they left.
So bicentennial celebrations, I mean, they actually arrived today, but I understand the celebrations happening...
They begin...
Tomorrow, is that correct?
Begin tomorrow, and but today, 14th of August, 3 p.m. Their boat arrives in the bay. He was, from my point of view, he was. I love Richard because he's involved with the conversion of Christian rangi, and even more significantly, Rawiri Taiwhanga, who in a sense he mentored as a farmer. Rawiri Taiwhanga became the first dairy farmer in New Zealand, commercial dairy farmer. Richard mentored him, but also Richard was present when at the service that began the Maori conversion, 24th of February 1830, which actually was Ash Wednesday. And so I'm not sure if he did the traditional Anglican Ash Wednesday service or not. It doesn't tell us. I like to think he did. Yeah. Traditional service, condemnation of sin and God's wrath on the sinful humanity, but the offer of God's mercy and grace through our Lord Jesus. Well, he was there at the Wednesday evening service, just the regular one, and he noticed particular interest from Maori as he preached, and to the point that he said, because usually afterwards, this is obligatory, they do their service, they go off and do singing and dancing and enjoy recreation, having finished their day, but this time they showed particular attention, said Richard, and so he said, if anyone would like to have further conversation, you're most welcome to come back with me to my house. And whereupon 30 or 40 men and boys did. Wow. And a similar number of women as well, with Mary Ann, his daughter. She was 18, but she also spoke with them. And it's really from this date, the 24th of February 1830, that we can mark the beginning of the Maori conversion, a significant movement of Maori to the Christian faith. Over the next 20 years, over 90% of Maori converted to Christianity that time. Wow. Some 60 to 70,000 Maori. And it's just one of the most wonderful events of New Zealand history. Not celebrated really outside the church, but it's and even within the church, I would say, because I mean that is a remarkable story. Particularly 1830, the first Maori conversion. That's a long time since Te Haranui, of course. Yes, it is. But then from there, making up for lost time. You know what, Malcolm? I reckon they should make a film. Probably more accurate than The Convert or Struggle Without End put together, but an actual story of the conversion of Maori in Aotearoa, New Zealand, a film about the life of Richard and Mary Davis. I think it's a fantastic idea. Obviously, it won't get funding, but it'll be a great story to tell on the big screen, wouldn't it? Yes, yeah. Oh, wow. I mean, the story of, and particularly the Maori converts themselves, because, of course, from this time in 1830, that's when they began, under the supervision of people like Richard Davis, they themselves went to, if they were slaves, they went to their slave masters and shared the gospel with them. Their masters were converted. They were returned to, if they returned to their tribes in other parts of the North Island and shared the gospel. It was really the time when Maori saw themselves as missionaries to their own people. It was a wonderful time. A wonderful time indeed, and made possible by God working through Richard and Mary Davis. We celebrate their bicentenary this week. All the best for the trip. I must say, Malcolm, I'm a little bit jealous that I'm not attending myself. It sounds like a bunch of fun. But hey, thank you for the work that you do. Thanks for joining us today. Yeah, that's fine. Hey, thanks very much for joining us in the Rhema studio. Thanks very much for watching the interview.
It's kind of nice to have an audience, actually. And if you did like what you watched, then do give us a like, do give us the thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more interviews like that one, or perhaps even better, subscribe and those interviews will come straight to you. Don't forget to turn on your notifications, and we'll see you in the next one. Cheers.